Alright everybody, welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be talking about a fun topic, which is my top 5 most wanted legendaries in the game. Now, as you know, I don't spend money anymore, so it is a real low chance that I get anything that I'm wanting on this list. But I thought it would be fun for you guys to know the ones that I value the most and the ones I'm really excited to hopefully pull for somebody else, at least in this day and age. So without further ado, let's get on to number 5. Number 5, I'm gonna take a stab at the name and say Vergamcar. Okay, well, I'll try. But if you look at this character, I think he's actually fairly, is it a he? Or it's a he or a he-at, I'm not quite sure. But if you look at this character, fairly unique. Stun on basic, pretty good. I like this though, which is removes all provoke debuffs and 1 random debuff from all allies. Places increased defense for 2 turns on all allies who have debuffs removed. And you know, most of the time there's probably going to be a debuff up unless you have block debuffs up for some reason. Places a shield buff, and this is what I really like, on all allies equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. And he has 22, or he, I'm not really sure. Okay, I'm just going to go with a he, has 22,000 base HP, which is pretty good. So I'm fairly impressed with just that move right there, but it doesn't stop. This is good too. Attacks all enemies, removes a random buff from each enemy, 75% chance of removing 2 random buffs from each enemy, pretty good. Now the chance doesn't go up as you book it, but you can reduce this cooldown all the way through, which is pretty nice. Places 100% heal reduction debuff for 3 turns on enemies who have 1 or more buffs removed, and places 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns on enemies who have 2 buffs removed. So, little bit of a mouthful, admittedly, but the fact that it just straight up removes buffs, and random buffs admittedly, but it removes buffs is very good, especially when you pair that with the fact that he sort of has like a Doom Priest passive here that allows him to remove other debuffs on his turn and do a shield and all that. These 2 moves are not too commonly found on the same character, so I like that. Now the passive here, he's immune to provoke debuffs himself, so he's not going to get locked out attacking one guy, which I kind of like. But this is cool. What I like a lot here is the champion's turn either by 20% each time an enemy places a provoke debuff on this champion. Okay, so how that works is kind of weird because it fills his turn either by 20% each time and attempts to place a provoke debuff on this champion. Okay, so even though he can't get it, when someone tries, then he gets a boost of turn meter, essentially. Okay, so means Tormund, for instance. Now Tormund, tries to land provoke a lot of times. The AI does an auto arena defense. I don't know if he'd particularly be good in arena, for instance, but he does have ally resist in all battles by 55. I think he's a pretty solid character, and I actually really want him because he's also a Lizardman, and Lizardman is kind of a faction that, unless you have people like Draco, which I happen to get, then, they kind of need the love, to be honest. There's a Krisk, but, like, who actually gets Krisk? Which goes straight into my number 4, believe it or not. My number 4 is obviously Krisk the Ageless. Now, Krisk is probably the most overloaded kit out of anyone I can really think of. Maybe Card, the new Cardo Void Legendary beats him. But if you look at him, he attacks all enemies, decrease speed. He attacks all enemies. Okay, places protection, places continuous heal, increases the duration of ally buffs. All of those are amazing. Okay, look at this one though. Places provoke debuff on all enemies. So, speaking of provoke from the previous character, this character here kind of gets countered a little bit by that, I suppose. But if you continue, 60% increased defense up, and then increased speed on all allies except him. So you can kind of see what the idea is. You make everyone tanky, you give everyone protection, you give everyone continuous heal, but it gets even better, which is as passive. He places shield buff on all allies for 50% of his champion's max HP, which is basically a shield set on steroids. Has 75% chance of placing 60% decreased defense debuff and decrease attack for 1 turn, which goes up to 100% chance when booked. Character is absolutely overloaded in pretty much every way, so he very easily gets the number 4 spot for me. All right, I hate to do it to you, but number 3 is Cardell, whatever. His name doesn't matter because he's overpowered. Okay, completely. I mean, like pretty much utterly overpowered. And I guarantee you we're about to hear my dryer screech at us in just a moment. So if you hear that, let me know. Attacks one enemy, heals all Attacks one enemy, heals all allies by 7.5% of their max HP. So that's kind of like a true percentage, if that makes sense, because it's always going to be the percentage of the person. Places a true debuff for 1 turn if the target is a champion from Demon Spawn, Undead, Knights Revenant. Basically like the bad guys, okay? Cardell, look at him. He's a great guy. He has, a majestic crown and wings. So he basically fears the bad guys, got it? Now look at this. This is where he starts to get ridiculous. Removes all debuffs from all allies, places block debuffs and revive on death debuffs for 2 turns. The revive on death buffs cannot be removed. So that's just gonna happen basically. Like if they die, they're gonna get revived, which is completely busted because it's on a 3-turn cooldown when it's booked, which it's like, okay. And then look at this here. It gets better. So places increased crit rate and increased crit damage buff on all allies. Then after doing that, that would be good enough. Teams up with all allies to a target enemy. It's not even like 4, it's like all allies. So if they ever expand the amount of allies for some reason, decreases the cooldown of this skill by 1 turn if the enemy is killed from this attack. So it goes down to 4 the book, then to 3. Oh man. Just nuts. It's if an enemy, not just the enemy he's targeting is killed. So people with AoE, like if he's rushing in with a Ray and Ray kills like a common or something. So good. Okay, then look at this. It gets better. All allies receive 20% less damage from the champions, the same factions. Whenever an ally attacks, he has 15% chance to team up with them and join their attack. This champion will attack with their default skill and always joins the Flame Tongue's attacks if they're on the same team. What? Once per turn, you can do that, okay? Will not team up with an ally attack when they counterattack or when you team up to attack with another champion. So it's not like OP. But then look, ally speed in all battles too. It's like, dude, what are you doing? This character is busted. Yeah, like number 3. He's my number 3. Give me this character. Quick shout out to today's sponsor, Summoner's Glory Eternal Fire. If you guys decide to download the game, make sure you go to server 3. That is the server I am on. When you make the game, the promo code be in the bottom left corner, right where I'm sitting, right here. It says promo code optional, and the code you're going to use is Darth Micro. When you use code Darth Micro, whatever your name is, it doesn't matter. Click create. You'll be making the character. It's gonna make the game name already. How did someone have the name SDGDSG? Okay, there we go. And just like that, you're in the game on my server. Now, when you play the game, you will get some freebies. It is a gacha game, and we're getting some giveaway codes coming on a soon video. So that's just it. I want to plug Summoner's Glory Eternal Fire. Thanks so much for the sponsor, and let's get back to the video. It might seem weird that number 2 is Ignatius. And I say this because we just said Cardell, right? Which is, overpowered in every sense of the word. But Ignatius does something that basically nobody else in the game does. And that is, of course, I'm speaking of, he has an AoE 100% when booked HP burn that cannot be resisted. No one else has that. That is... It is something that will happen, okay? It is a toolkit major piece. It's like going to, I don't know, build a house without a hammer. Like it's such an essential piece of equipment, such an essential tool to be able to do HP burn, that having it be unresistible is amazing. He's also in the Ogryn tribe, and I've already beat the Ogryn tribe faction wars, but he's quite good there, obviously. The fact is, he has a stun on his basic, which is okay. 25%, nothing to write home about. Attacks all enemies, chance of provoking, which is pretty cool, but it's not like he has a passive like Drexthar that makes people get burned when he gets hit. Kind of okay. Ally defense in all battles is all right, but the real fact of it is he is a one-trick pony, and that is everyone gets HP burned, and it's just gonna happen You know, unless this does not counteract weak hits. So if he does hit like on a force character weak, he's still not going to place the HP burn, but it can't be resisted when he does hit a normal hit. Number 1 is probably the most ridiculous, unfair character I've ever seen released into the game. I'm not quite sure why they call her support, because this here should actually just say God. I don't know if you've seen this new character, but let's just look, okay? Attacks enemy, 15% continuous heal on the ally with the lowest HP for 1 turn. Also places the 7.5 version on all allies with 30% less. Okay, so maybe we start to see, okay, that's why it's a support. Well, DM, that's not so exciting. You know what? You're right. That's not so exciting. Let's roll up the sleeves to read the second one here. Pressure points. Now let's take a look. What does this do? On the 3-turn win but cooldown, it places on the target enemy stun, HP burn, decrease defense, weaken, decrease attack, and decrease crit rate. Yeah, that seems pretty good now, doesn't it, huh? I mean, look at this list of things it does. Stun, HP, but there's not a percentage chance. It just does it. You think it stops there? Well, it doesn't. She removes all debuffs from all allies, heals them all, and places block debuffs on them for 2 turns. And then if you look at her passive, anytime she receives any debuff, there's the laundry again. Anytime she gets any debuff, it's just the person who gave it to her gets it instead. What? What? So she can't be debuffed. Your allies aren't going to have debuffs either because they're getting removed and block debuffed and getting healed because of it. The person you're trying to fight is going to have every single, and I do mean like every single debuff. And if you have someone who spreads debuffs like a Vizier, well then GG. And then the basic attack makes sure everyone gets healed too. This character is awesome. I mean, this character alone is probably the character that I want more than any other person I've ever seen in the game. Probably even including Draco. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I read this character's kit. And man, they nailed it on the art too. You know what this seems like? This is like one of those characters that... this is one of those characters that in like an MMORPG or something, that's like a character like only the devs can play. You know what I mean? It's one of those where it doesn't seem like a real character in the game. It's like, it's a joke, right? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know your top 5 most wanted in the comments below. Like the video to help me out and subscribe to see me again. Love y'all, and I'll see you on the next video.